evening, viewers, and you're very, very welcome to our latest Live and Leash program. We're absolutely delighted. I'm delighted. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm delighted to be joined this evening by James McInerney, the runner-up in the recent BBC Glow Up series. But of course, we're all biased, and he should have won. We know that. James, you're very, very welcome to Live and Leash this evening. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We miss you over here, and you were saying off camera maybe a little tad homesick.
Maybe from like a working point of view, yeah. I mean, I've been out of work essentially for 4 months, and I miss the environment. But I'm super fortunate that I've gotten to come home before the pandemic, and yeah, there'd be nowhere else I'd want to be right now during this crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when you say you haven't worked for 4 months, I mean, I think it's the same for creative people all around
Mm.
the world.
Yeah.
Basically, they're stuck at home, the work has dried up. Like, how
Mm.
have you coped with that?
I think in my case it's a little bit peculiar because I knew in the pipeline I had the Globe season 2 on the BBC coming out, and it really has been a godsend. The promotion started from when promotion started till the end of last week's finale. I That's kept me busy for 10 weeks. So if anything, I only kind of feel like I'm having a rest for the first time since April, and I was kind of actually enjoying the start of it. It felt like a good recharge because I was busy all throughout 2019, working up till Christmas time. And yeah, I think, just after the show, there's a bit of like all creatives, a sense of what to do next or what's going to happen.
Very good. And of course, the story of you finding out about the Glow Up series, I mean, you really kind of fell across it in a sense.
Yeah, it really was. Like, it was never on my agenda. Neither was when I left Ireland. I got my first job as a makeup trainee for a TV show called Horrible Histories. It's a very popular book series, and the Children's BBC do consecutive series of it. And that was like a gateway over to the UK. And when I moved over, essentially that job was 3 months. I decided, okay, I think I might like wait time out in London for a while, get some more work experience. I was enjoying it. And then on TV last year, I saw the first series of Glow Up, which is essentially looking for Britain's next makeup star. And like I was hooked from the get go. Like media and kind of makeup combined, it's very up my avenue. So once the first series finished, fortunately, the production company were booked in to do a second series. So I just applied. Like I kind of persevered myself then to go for the second series.
And there were thousands of applicants.
Yeah, there was a lot. I can't go into precise details behind the procedure of applying, but it was over a year now since I did my very first step to apply. There was loads of different rounds. There was a final selection, and then I just don't know how they let some Irish lad on the series. But I was fortunate to get casted as one of the 10 contestants then for the show.
Well, no, you weren't fortunate, James. I mean, you have it. I mean, everyone's going to laugh at this, and we had a bit of a giggle about this off camera. That you'd be a wonderful science teacher for starters. You'd be a great lecturer,
Oh
and
my
it
god!
comes as no surprise at all. You have a lot of teachers in your family background. Can you tell?
Yeah, I
Can you
think
name
that's.
names?
Oh, just there's a lot of teachers that have taught in loads of schools across the Laois, and I think that like knowledge kind of comes just in general from my parents. I never did any science subject in school or for the Leaving Cert. I always stuck to the music and arts. I did geography, and we could see that came in handy for the semi-finals. So I think to strive and get to a point where you had to keep standing out week after week, and like they narrowed it down so close to the final 3 and 2, you have to pull tricks out of the book, like things that nearly didn't relate to makeup. But then once you have a concept and a good storyline, once you just use the medium of art and makeup, you make it work essentially.
And like between episodes, did you have much time to work on the concept for the following show?
It varied. There's no kind of specific like details on that. It was like we had essentially a week maybe at the start for the first few episodes for the creative briefs because they were prepared concepts because they want you to showcase and show off the best of your ideas and capabilities in this 2.5 hour time frame in what we call like the Glow Up HQ, where we filmed all of like the main feature of the show. And then I think semi-final episode was not prepared, but that again was a test of how we could work off spontaneity. So yeah, there was, the time varied. Some days we had 2 or 3 days, and then sometimes we had more time. But, I had thought of a few ideas. What was finally showcased on the show, that came from an idea that would have started out looking completely different to what I then finally kind of executed or visualized in front of the judges for like every week's challenge.
And speaking of the judges, did you have a favorite? Was Val your favorite, or are you allowed saying? Will we get a letter from the BBC giving out?
Not at all, not at all. I mean, the internet's full of like who they think their favorites on the show are. So you always have to like remain unbiased. I think I love both judges for 2 completely different things. Like Dominic Skinner, who's the senior representative for MAC Cosmetics, he's very into symmetry. And I guess you could say we clashed heads with my asymmetrical placement of prosthetic horns for one of my devil characters. And, that was a big learning lesson in the book. It was showcased on TV. And yeah, I learned from those comments. But then I think Val is just brutally honest. But she's that way driven because she will push you to do better than you might have expect yourself to do. For me personally, a lot of people feel intimidated by Val, and there could be a good laugh in this, but my Val kind of reminds me of my mom. Like my mom has the same length hair, and if you put those specs on her, I was just kind of like, okay, she's not that scary.
Yeah. So yeah, she's like any other Irish mammy.
She is. Oh, she's a mammy true and true. She'd be tough as nuts, but instead of a wooden spoon, there's a makeup brush.
Well, it's a great grounding for you, and of course, it's a great platform to show off your talents. And what we're going to do now, our wonderful producer is going to play a little clip.
Super.
Shining in every sense. Shining in every sense.
All the highlighter.
Exactly.
I was always an artistic kid, but growing up as a closeted gay country boy, I had to act and be a certain way. I was hiding and limiting myself, and I was always holding back from doing what I really wanted to do. I love the transformation and the just endless possibilities of makeup. Drag was the real kickstart element for me. I used to dress up in drag in my bathroom from about the age of 15, 16, and that is something that I'm just carrying on throughout my adulthood as well.
So, for today's creative brief, we would like you to create a look that is representing your own personal icon.
MUAs, time starts now.
Let's go, honey. Let's go, girl. So, my icon is David Bowie. Just to let you know, I have a twitch. A twitch in my neck. It's just been there my whole life. I have a twitch that is quite physically noticeable in my neck and in my eye. When I was 18, I went to a consultant, and a neurologist was able to certify that it was a form of Tourette syndrome. I'm not ashamed by it. I have gotten a lot more comfortable and happier in myself. Seeing the twitch as part of my identity, I've learned to kind of take pride in it. It's never really been a big enough factor to stop me from doing anything with my life.
It's like a Smurf without a hat.
Yeah. So I'm about to do one of the biggest features, which is the red stripe.
MUAs, your time is up. Hair dryers off, brushes down. You can take your models round the corner to be photographed.
Okay, James. Wow. I think this is absolutely insanely incredible.
This is beyond makeup. It's just genius. I'm overjoyed that this has come into this workroom because this is everything I want to say. Brilliant. Just brilliant.
Shut up now.
I can't. No, I'm not going to shut up.
I give you the biggest ding dong ever.
Absolutely marvellous.
Thank you guys so much.
Ding dong.
Welcome back, viewers. I hope you enjoyed that clip there from Glow Up, which, James, you were telling me will be on BBC Two.
Yes, so
Is it next week?
next week. So starting at 8 p.m. on the 16th of July, every Thursday, Glow Up Season 2 will be airing on BBC Two. So anyone like that has Sairview or satellite TV, you should be able to watch. And it'll be starting from again. So there's plenty of weeks to enjoy and watch the whole journey unfold.
Yes, and of course, you're not to follow James for the moment on social media because there are loads of spoilers in there. So spoiler alert, hashtag spoiler alert, guys.
Yeah, if you're into that, I mean, go for it and like anticipate the high moments. But yeah, I mean, if you want to see a real development, and of all like the contestants, everyone has such a diverse background, and that again is kind of, I think, what makes a show interesting.
It does. The different backgrounds, the different accents, everything.
Oh yeah, I
They
stood out like a
they were
sore
a nice
thumb.
bunch, weren't they?
We really were. I think with this season, you know, there was a lot of diversity. There was a lot of different like strengths. Everyone came from like, you know, one girl had a huge online following already, probably 3 to 4 times larger than all of us at this point, even post Glow Up. And then you had myself, essentially, that, you know, was not really known in the industry at all. And I persevered by applying for the show. There is a casting agency for Globe that looks and scouts for talent, that like invites them to apply as fairly as anyone else that wants to, you know, do it off their own back. So it was like, just, we lived in a house together, and living in an apartment, you don't know each other at all. You really are thrown into deep end. Essentially, not only would you necessarily have to get on with each other, but you do form a bond. And overall, I really honestly say that we are a really good support network to each other, because we've all gone through this experience.
And was there anyone messy in there? You didn't do the washing up.
Oh Jesus, I mean, that could go for anybody. Like, I'm the last of some days, I'm the first up. You're always going to clean an extra plate, you're always going to maybe take someone's milk. I could be reflecting on about me, like, but no, in fairness, we had producers with, like, you know, survey and watch, and we had an assistant living with us because there was a tight time schedule and agenda. We would be up at 4 or 5 a.m. some mornings to do a full day's work, and we wouldn't get de-rigged from our mics until like 11 o'clock that night. So, you know, it's a hustle, because you're putting in a lot of work for something that 9 or 10 months down the line, you'll reap the benefits. You just have to trust that process.
You see people looking in, and they see the glitz and the glamour and the highlighter. Get that in, and the highlighter.
Exactly, spot on.
But it's like acting. I mean, it is a bone-breakingly tough business.
It is, and like, I think even like when it comes to the like an industry like TV and film, as a makeup artist, regardless if your background is bridal, beauty, you work in a salon, you know, from that point of view, in my perspective, it's always tough work. And people always find when it comes to the creative work, this is, you know, just a great platform, and it helps almost elevate my work potentially a few years ahead of where I would be working. But with that comes the sacrifice of, I did, you know, give up some jobs to go into like secrecy to film this, the stress that you go through going through the competition, and that's just because of the passion, the nature of the show. You know, there's always going to be sacrifice and hard work.
Yeah, but I mean, as you say, 9 months down the line, it pays off.
It really does, and I think it's been just an amazing journey. The support, to be quite honest, has just been phenomenal, and I think it has helped lockdown hugely.
It has, to be fair. And of course, you admitted on camera there that you felt imposter syndrome until maybe halfway through the series. I didn't see, I mean, you were so confident. Like, I think it was the second episode, you had to pick your icon, and of course, thank God your icon was David Bowie.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm sure your parents and your uncles and aunties were happy about that too.
Oh, I think in particular my dad, like we had actually come up with that concept as just kind of like play around with makeup looks when I was home after a job last summer. And I was always saying I'd love to do something. His favorite kind of two music bands, or even to throw in a third, would be like Mercury, Bowie, and Pink Floyd, and The Dark Side of the Moon. I actually originally did like a prism look. And then I remember one day thinking, hey, I'd love to do like a Bowie look for you. And to kind of incorporate that infamous like Ziggy Stardust stripe, I was like, how can I make this somewhat just a bit more out there, essentially a bit more weird? Because that's really what I sell with makeup, just being a bit odd. And one of my favorite Bowie lines is there life on Mars? And I thought, why not make a blue alien essentially and give it that feature? And then the look just came together. There's no other way than when small snippets of ideas kind of like work in unison with each other.
Well, I mean, what a man for, and what an icon for inspiration. I mean, I watched, it was on BBC recently, a documentary, and David
Oh yeah,
Bowie,
that's correct. Yes, I watched that.
Fascinating
Amazing
stuff. Fascinating stuff. Amazing guy. Again, made personal sacrifices, went abroad, experimented. I mean, obviously he had his partying days, but just an incredibly inspirational, inspiring character.
Well, he was the right fit for the competition, and it was actually interesting from a production point of view. For the second episode, there was another contestant that was still in the running at that point, whose icon was also David Bowie, and I think the BBC had done it from an interesting perspective to let us both run with the looks. And I guess through the power of makeup, compare but not to compare also what two separate artists' unique perspective is when they share the same subject for a theme. So having both of us use Bowie when the theme was icons. And there's actually a great segment that was on Glow Up, at Glow Up on Facebook, their Facebook page. They have a video backtracking to the time when that episode aired a couple of weeks ago, where they, look at the differences. And that is kind of a good reflection on the show itself. People could say this is like a reality television show to a degree, but I think what kind of gives it a much lovelier and humble tone is that it's actually listed as a factual entertainment show, because essentially, it's a show that's funded by the UK's like TV license. It's made by the BBC for an audience to essentially learn from, as well as being entertained by what visuals are kind of going to showcase. And when we were doing our creative briefs and doing all the various challenges, production will be filming, there's cameras on you all the time. And there's a lot of times that you have to be very like vigilant and aware to be ready to explain what you're doing, because a lot of it can be internally. I find I do a lot of focusing when I do my makeup, but then an element of the show is you might have a director or a producer saying, okay, please explain this, because that could be used then in the final edit. You have to explain what you're doing to like kind of teach people at home why this is important.
Yeah, and I felt exactly that. I felt for the evolution brief, when you came up with the osmosis concept, you were able to break it down, and you were explaining how this works and this works and this works, and this is the look I'm looking for. You knew the properties of all the different things you were using.
I think that's just research. Google is a great machine, but it's funny actually how that happened, because I don't think I've even shared this story yet. We had whittled down to the final three. So it was going to be Eve from Liverpool, the sensational Ophelia, who was born and raised in Hong Kong, now living in London, and then little old I. We were watching Disney Pixar's Moana, and there's a scene about the volcano or some element of the earth rising to the water. And you'd think I was almost like, God, I should have watched this earlier. It's too late to have to do that earth element challenge. But something clicked in my head, and it's the only thing I think I remember from Juniors of Science. We literally learned osmosis, and then I just saw this like vision in my head, and I went straight to pen to paper, because we had to get the brief in prior to filming the finale. And there's no other way of explaining that. It just clicked. And then also I stuck to what I knew. I know how to work with those colors, like blue. It's essentially what the Bowie was about. I like a good blend, a gradient of color. So I had no problem getting the base down. And then I'd use other makeup mediums throughout the show, because I think essentially, as much as demonstrating the idea of evolution, you got to play with your strengths because you're fighting for the title here. So run with something that you think you can really smash.
Yeah, no, and you, Sean, you smashed it. You smashed it.
Thank
As
you.
the Americans would say, you smashed it out of the park.
Smashed it, mate.
And of course, yeah, South London, innit?
Yeah, in it, bro.
But James, your teachers must be incredibly proud of you, both the South National School in Abbeyleix and, of course, Kilkenny College, because you were explaining a gang left the South National School and went to Kilkenny College, and you more or less followed them.
Yeah, I just I went to South National School on just outside the Balacalla Road in Abbeyleix. It's literally across from not far from where I live. And they just became my school buddies. And there's 12 of us from that 6th class. We just migrated into Kilkenny for senior level. And it's actually, what was really special was last week, within distance and obviously with social distance measurements, we had some close family and close friends watch the finale on a projector. And my mom, she's such a, she kept it real quiet. Lo and behold, who came walking through the door 5 minutes before we start the show? But my art teacher from the art department in Kilkenny. And wow. I was just like, oh my God, like I hadn't seen her in 8 years. And, that was just like incredible support. It felt really nostalgic, but it also kind of brought everything back to like your roots and essentially where you're from. Like regardless what will happen or what has even happened with the Glow Up, I actually find it quite ironic, but it's quite special that I'm back home. I'm in Abbeyleix for this whole experience. I could have been totally cooked up in London, but I don't even think I'm aware of the impact of this whole experience and the footfall of where it's gone out to yet. But it definitely helps keep me grounded.
Absolutely. And tell me more about your art teacher from Kilkenny College.
Miss Connie O'Connor, she was just an amazing inspiration, and she always just pushed me to kind of like pursue my art per se. I think for me, and it's one of the first things I even say when I'm introduced in the season, I was always an artistic kid. I loved art in school. I was doing makeup kind of in secrecy myself when I was a teenager, but it always came from drawing face charts and like eyebrows and eyelashes. I drew all these like illustrations, all my like junior cert, leaving cert books, and had a big permanent marker to kind of like block them out. But that was my own block myself, I suppose, not fully accepting that this is kind of just, I think about the stuff 24/7. Makeup is essentially what I'm going to do. I wasn't just ready for it, but my art teacher always encouraged me to kind of like stick to what I knew best. And, if I was to go back, I think I would made my Leaving Cert practical exam all about makeup or face charts or whatever was kind of like apt for this, like the state exam requirements. But yeah, she was just super surprised, like super amazed, and I was just so surprised. And yeah, it felt kind of like just really humbling.
That's wonderful. So well done, Grania.
Yeah.
Well done, Grania.
Sound her, yeah.
You've helped the next Irish star on his way.
Oh, yeah, way back when, before we knew it.
Before we knew it is right. And of course, you were very open. I don't know, have we mentioned this so far in the program? But you were very open during the show about your Twitch, which it's very brave of you. But I suppose you have to explain it. But you came across really well when you explained it. Can you explain what it is?
Yeah, sure. So like it is a form of Tourette's syndrome, but it isn't essentially Tourette's. So like a lot of people can like misjudge that, I'm verbally expressive with like shouting or swearing. It's none of that at all. It can be something like a grunting, like percussion sound. It's a twitch in like different muscles. Like it's evident, and it could like vary when I'm like, tired, stressed, even sometimes like excited, or when I'm like, overwhelmed. And then there are times when it hasn't really been like evident at all. Like most of my close friends would never make an issue of it, or it's never been seen to be anything to like stop me or jeopardize what I'm doing. And the producers on the show actually had said there's a footage of when I'm starting the Bowie look before I even did the transformation on my model. From working as a trainee prior to Glow Up, just out of practice, I always started to disclaim to my models, by the way, I have a twitch, because you're very close and personal to your model or client. It's quite a personal space where if they don't, at least it's not addressed, they might just think something is wrong, or it could create like a different bit of it, like an uncomfortable sense. And once I just simply say it, and all the jobs, all the experiences, and since I've kind of grown up to accept it as well, because teenager years are an interesting kind of space of time, and no one's bothered by it. And there's cameras in our mirrors in the creative briefs in Glow Up HQ. And the mic picks up the day I disclaimed to that Bowie model, by the way, I have a Twitch. And it was brought up during my master interview at the start of the series. And again, the producers gave me kind of like pre-knowledge of what episode 2 was going to look like. And I think they did it in a really lovely tone talking about it. But what was really overwhelming to me was the support through my socials, and especially on Instagram. People reaching out that have similar, like mild forms of twitches, Tourette's. And I think it really, it did make me emotional that some people saw it as an inspiration when I would never think of myself any different. Like, it's never held me back from doing what I want to do. Like, Glow Up as an example.
Yeah, but of course, your generation, I have to say it, your generation is just more accepting of difference anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot's changed. Even, I imagine being 10 years younger when I would have been in maybe transition year or junior cert at this point, and to think how far, you know, as a nation and as society's come, even in 5 years, never mind 10, like there's always so much I would wonder what would happen if I was back in school. Or I'd like to imagine a 16-year-old fella, girl, whoever, whatever you identify with, that, you know, you can just fully personify and be yourself. Like, there's so much that I'm grateful that I've came out and learned along the way. But I think there's a lot more time that can be saved if you just, you know, be your authentic self whenever like it's right.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see, and it's so healthy and refreshing to see it, because of course with my 50 plus years of experience, old Ireland, going back even one generation, far less accepting of difference, far more judgmental, I would have to say. So it's great that the new Ireland is blossoming in various sectors. But speaking of your career, now it's obviously going to be your career for life. Like, at the moment with COVID-19, like how do you apply makeup, or do you, under the current circumstances?
For me right now, I actually haven't done any like makeup work, or like, you know, makeup artist and clientele. The only person I've like even started working on in like the last 2 weeks has been my mom, because when I came home from London, I initially quarantined, and that was actually a great opportunity for me to be creative and do a series of makeup looks on my Instagram. Now going forward, it's kind of still up in the air. I've seen a lot of artists that have even influenced me to potentially do more online work and do masterclass work online. Like, if you can't physically be with a student, a client, or a model, if they want to still learn about makeup, like, you can still use your tools to teach. I say that in theory. The show has obviously kept me quite busy that I haven't actually, you know, done that physically myself yet. I think it's really tested the waters. For me personally, I think I would go back to London sooner than later, simply because it's where I started establishing like my network of contacts, and is where my work is just based. But there are 1 or 2 jobs soon during the summer that I've actually been lined up to do in Ireland. And it could be a thing. I'm very open to doing work back in Ireland, essentially maybe meandering between the UK and Dublin and elsewhere. It all kind of is still up in the air. I'm really just taking each week by week.
Yeah, but I mean, you've a great attitude. But at your age, that's the only attitude to have.
Oh well,
you're fearless.
Well, you know, thank you. I think it's like it comes through trial and error, and like there's so many, I suppose you could call life's red chairs experiences with makeup I've had before Glow Up. So the best thing I could do through the competition was just remain positive, because it's going to do better than, you know, the latter.
Exactly. I actually at the moment need a touch of makeup, because I don't know if you noticed, my left eye is quite I've had hay fever for the last couple of days. And, poor me, yesterday my left eye was like a golf ball.
A good antihistamine, good steam on it.
I know, I'm doing all that.
And then we can do a little bit of concealer. You know, health is wealth first.
Thanks, James. Thanks. Now, while we have you on, is there anyone you want to say hello to virtually?
They're probably in the next room, but I'd love to say hello to my parents, mom and dad, because I have to give credit. They've always nurtured and supported me, no matter how mad an idea is. There's been plenty of like dinners at the table where I'm literally dressed as a blue Smurf, covered in red, covered in pink, blue, the whole color spectrum. And it's just like, that is the new normal in this house. I'd love to say, you know, hello to all my aunties and uncles and family in Laois that are watching. to Uncle Frank, the scientist, Auntie Geraldine, the geography teacher, and there's a whole array of teachers in our family. And then just any friends that are watching. I know that the Laois People is now highly supported, but all my friends are back home in Laois. Like, I haven't got to see that many people with lockdown. I've really rarely left Happy Leaks yet, but hopefully I'll be able to, you know, see people at a distance, and anyone that just knows me that's watching, and even people that I've befriended in the UK and anyone from the globe that could be watching. We're all friends on Facebook now. You know, hey is, and just thank you so much for the support. I think half of this really relies on the positivity from other people and the kindness and messages. Like, I do this for a reason, and it's always important to see that it inspires people, but essentially when you even do makeup, you are, you know, trying to make someone else feel better, like bring out the best version of themselves. So I would just say thank you to anyone that's watching and kind of, you know, brought the love back.
Well said, James. Well said. And of course, at the end of the program, we have all basically your links to Instagram, and you're very active now on social media.
Yes, and what I'll actually be planning to start next is doing a YouTube series. So if anyone wants to, they can follow me at James McInerney on YouTube. I'll collectively be putting up all social videos on my Instagram from the Glow Up experience, and then going forward, yeah, you know, with the time that I have and just learning, modifying, I plan to hopefully go into doing more YouTube series and just sharing more of the personality and makeup on, you know, online.
Yeah. Well, I keep saying it. I'm like a broken record. You're a natural teacher. You come across really, really well. And of course, you're passionate, which, I mean, that's half the battle. If you're passionate, you're there. You're
not
there.
shy to talk.
No, not at all, James. Well, James, we're going to cut now to the credits. We're going to say goodbye to everyone. You can stay online there. We'll chat after the credits roll.
Sure.
Have to thank our producer again. Thanks, producer, for all the video clips and all the bits and pieces. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To all our viewers, thanks for checking in and checking us out. Hope you enjoyed the interview. I certainly did. But we'll take a break now for a couple of weeks. Now, we do hope in August and September to have far more females on the show. So we're if you want to be interviewed, let us know. And again, like James, don't be shy at all. Step forward to the mic. Everyone has a story. So
exactly.
Don't be shy.
Always.
So from me and from James, bye now, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.